Before we get started, I would like to share a special message from State Representative Minares.
This is State Representative Ina Minhades from House District 124. Every 15 minutes, one infant is born in the U.S. experiencing withdrawal from drug exposure in the womb, a condition called neonatal abstinence syndrome. A third of all cases of neonatal abstinence syndrome in Texas occur in Bexar County, where I represent. This is why I sponsored House Bill 405 last legislative session to gain community support for the 300 to 400 families in our community personally impacted every year. The passing of this legislation made June the statewide Neonatal Abstinence Syndrome Awareness Month in Texas. Among women who experience barriers to health and wellness, no one faces more obstacles than pregnant and parenting women who are living with substance use disorders. Women from racial and ethnic minority groups and those living in low socioeconomic communities are even further marginalized, creating additional barriers to restoration of their health and wellness. Facing multiple and interconnected sources of stigma, discrimination, and trauma, establishing a pathway to recovery is vital for preventing the intergenerational impact on these families. The potential for recovery depends not only on access to evidence-based care, but physical, emotional, and economic empowerment. Addiction is a disease, not a moral failing that impacts the entire family. Since families are the core of communities, their preservation through access to supportive and unbiased services is critical. These services should include housing first, education, and gainful employment that allows families to become self-sustaining. In closing, I'd like to personally welcome all of you to the 2021 Texas NAS Symposium, which is financially supported by the Texas HHSC and hosted by UT Health San Antonio's School of Nursing. Through this event, you will have access to free live and recorded presentations given by experts in the field. Most importantly, I encourage you to attend the keynote event, Journeys of Hope, Mothers Thriving with Their Children in Recovery, where you will hear the stories of 3 mothers who have been personally impacted by addiction and NAS. Time will also be provided for you to interact live and ask questions. Thank you once again to Dr. Cleveland and her team at the School of Nursing for hosting the annual statewide Neonatal Abstinence Syndrome Symposium. Thank you.
We appreciate State Representative Minares' support and hard work to bring awareness to NAS. Also joining us is Dr. Lisa Cleveland, Associate Professor of Nursing and a state and national expert in opioid use disorder in pregnant parenting women and opioid overdose prevention. Dr. Cleveland?
Thank you, Sharice. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. We're really thrilled to have you here and really excited about this year's NAS Symposium. We are so honored to be able to host this for the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. And a special thank you to the representative again for bringing awareness through her legislation, which makes June the statewide NAS Awareness Month. She is such a champion for women and children. Just to provide a very brief background before we watch the video and introduce you to the 3 ladies who are joining us today. As the representative mentioned, Bexar County has been disproportionately impacted by NAS. About 300 to 400 families in our community every year are personally touched by this public health concern. And so that led us to really believe that we needed to engage with the community and take action to really improve the lives of the families here in our community. And so we started to look nationally. And what we discovered is that nationally, about 70% of women with substance use disorders have young dependent children, yet very few recovery homes, recovery residences provide beds for children, which means that moms and babies are separated for moms to receive the type of care that they need, and which is really unfortunate. We also learned that between 2012 and 2016, there was a national 10% increase in the number of children entering foster care due to parental substance use. In the states where most greatly impacted, these numbers look more like 50%, which really lends itself to this intergenerational potential for trauma, which we really want to try to mitigate. We also know that overdose is a leading cause of maternal mortality in Texas and a national leading cause as well. And so we decided to really, again, engage with the community and design a program for women and children called Casa Mia. Casa Mia is a partnership between the School of Nursing and the nonprofit Crosspoint Incorporated, funded by Texas Department of State Health Services. And Casa Mia is a recovery residence where women can go to recover with their children. It's been a really great partnership. We have 20 beds. We are oftentimes at capacity. You will hear some of the ladies talking about Casa Mia today. They are all graduates of the program, which is really exciting. You will hear from these three women, Julie, Felipa, and Jennifer. I believe Julie is joining us late. She is actually accepting an academic scholarship today. She's going back to school, which is so exciting. But these ladies are mothers, they're sisters, they're friends, they're students, but I think what you'll see today is that they are truly survivors. And they inspire me and my team every single day. Before we play the video, I just want to give a little shout out to Rob Long, who works in our creative media services here at UT Health San Antonio, for giving his personal attention and interest to the videography and editing, making these videos possible and truly impactful. And with that, we'll turn it over to you, Sharice, in the video.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start the video now.
Once I started, doing drugs, they would send me to go and get drugs. So it was, to me, I thought it was, I'm thinking back then, to me, I think it was normal. Because, that's all I grew up knowing, So it was really hard, especially seeing my brothers send me to get drugs, and offer me drugs when I was 12 years old. I was always around a place where I was afraid to go to sleep because I would have cousins trying to touch me, trying to rape me, my own cousins. It was really hard because I didn't feel safe staying nowhere, like at all, not even around my brother.
My mom and dad were both addicts growing up, and back then I guess they didn't know anything about rehab or getting help for their addiction. So growing up, they basically showed us that that was normal. It was normal for us. And over time, my mom and dad, they got out of their addiction, but me and my brothers fell into it.
I remember after I had a miscarriage after an IUI attempt when I was 27, and before I had ever abused any drugs. And on the way back from having the DNC after having the miscarriage, I remember saying, I don't know what I'll be in life if it's not a mother.
My son was born with a heart defect. So the doctor said we need to do heart surgery. So I agreed. My baby didn't make it. He ended up passing away on the table. And I didn't know how to deal with that. Instead of coming home with my son, I came home with a box, just a box. And I feel that the nurses there could have provided more information, whether it was someone to talk to, something. Even if they would have just called to do a follow-up to see how I was doing, I think things would have been different. But I didn't know how to cope, and there was no coping skills, so I turned to drugs to cope. And it was the worst idea I ever made.
They were to be more open, and let them know that there's help out there, for them not to feel, guilty of anything that's, they've done. That no matter what they're going through, that staying clean it's possible. they're reaching out, and just, I think by being more open about addiction to them, I think it would help. I would have asked for so much help just as long as they wouldn't take them away from me. Because I didn't know there was rehabs. I didn't know there was places where I didn't know about any meetings. I didn't know about none of that back then.
I didn't know about the treatment centers, especially ones that, we could bring our kids to afterwards or anything. I didn't know that there was programs where you didn't have to pay. The only thing I knew was when I went to that treatment center in Waco, my mom's husband at the time had to write a check for $3,500 for me to go. And that's all I knew. Anytime I had ever made any phone calls to attempt to get help, it was always, okay, what's your insurance? Okay, there's no beds available right now. So I think that, when someone Googles treatment help or addiction services, hopefully, more things come up, because a lot of times we call and we are just asked for our insurance right away. So the person at Center for Healthcare Services, she really helped me. When we found out I was pregnant, she could have just sent me home. She just said, I want you to sit down. We're going to find somewhere for you to go. Because I was just sitting there, I couldn't go to detox. I needed to do something. So it was great. But at the same time, I was constantly worried about where were my kids? Were my kids okay? Were my kids going to come that weekend to visit me? Was my mom going to be drunk whenever she brought my son? Was I going to have to be worried about her driving away with them? Was it too hard on their great-grandparents to take care of them? Were they okay? And so I wasn't able to concentrate on myself.
When I had my baby, my daughter, and she was in the NICU, and I would go to try and see her, the nurses would make me feel very uncomfortable. They looked down on me, and they didn't see me as a human being. I think they saw me as somebody disgusting that just hurt this little baby. When I did go in the daytime, I would have several nurses that were looking, to make sure they would come over and tell me that I couldn't be touching her, or that I had to let her sleep, when all I wanted to do was hold her. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to see her open her eyes. And so I knew they were watching me all the time, because even if I touched her little hand, they would tell me that I couldn't be touching her. I think if they would have just took the time to understand that I was a mother, and I needed help, the baby needed help, and what we could do there just to help the baby, because that was the main focus, not bashing me or making me feel bad, but just to help the baby and whatever the baby needed best. Before my daughter Liana, that's the one that was in the NICU for neonatal abstinence syndrome, I didn't have that experience. I wasn't on drugs with my older daughter when she was born, so they treated me like a normal human being, a normal parent. My daughter came in the room with me. They put her in my arms. I got to hug her and kiss her, and the doctors would tell me how pretty she was. But when I had Liana and I'm in this ICU with her, nobody came in and said, Mom, it's gonna be okay. And nobody came and allowed me to hold her, put her in my arms. They would tell me no, I couldn't touch her, when all I wanted to do was hug my daughter.
Having them there with me at Casa Mia, I think, allowed me to be able to concentrate on and being able to get some more time in my recovery, and look at the things that I wanted to do in the future. It helped me to be able to really think of what was going to be best for my kids, whether it was moving back to Kerrville, staying in San Antonio. I think it made the difference in me being able to stay sober as long as I have, because I was just so happy to be able to be a mom while I was in treatment.
That's all I needed, a place where I could go and keep fighting for my son, and one day be able to reunite him with me there. I was really grateful, and I'm very glad that there's places like that, because it really helps. It really gives you that feeling of motivation to fight for your kids.
I know a lot of the girls that went to Casa Mia, they maybe have never had a house like the house at Casa Mia. They maybe have never had, a place where their kids can sit and watch TV and play. And my kids still talk about the even today, they're like, are we going to go to the big house with stairs? They want us to get a house with stairs, because I've been talking about getting an apartment, and they want a house. I'm like, we can't afford a house with stairs, but today they really want to go there, and they remember the kids. So they still, even as little as they are, remember Casa Mia, and they remember going up and down the stairs and everything about it. They still talk every day about it.
I went to Casa Mia. I learned so many coping skills, long-term friendships with the other moms and babies that are there. And I have a job that I get paid good. I have my own car. I have an apartment. My little girl's with me. And it's just getting better from there.
Mostly all the moms that were there in Casa Mia, I still talk to them, and was able to tell them, I was there before, just, stay strong, and, just whoever gives you advice, just take it, because, when I was, back there the same in your shoes right now, it was really hard. I I didn't have no advice from anybody that had, experience, so it was a really a good experience there at Casa Mia.
It was good to have girls there with us that, we could relate with, and girls that are moms and that were missing their kids, and that had to leave their kids, or that had lost a child before.
I wish others knew that sometimes it's not a choice. Things can happen in our lives and we don't have the coping skills. It leads us to find a different way of coping, and that coping eventually is drugs, and it just goes downhill from there. When I was in my addiction, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know. That's why I think I stayed in my addiction for so long, because nobody ever said, okay, well, you can go here to get help. I just thought it was something I didn't talk about. So I think if the community was to reach out more to people that are in addiction, it would help people get out of addiction a lot quicker.
I want people to know is that there are places out there. There are places out there that you can go that you don't have to leave your kids. Because I know, like me, it's like, I've been to jail, I've been to other, through other programs, and I really didn't want to have to leave my kids again. So I think it's just important that people know that there are other places out there. Don't feel guilty for having to get yourself better. Don't feel the shame. Don't hold the shame and guilt for the things that you've done. Just be proud that you are gonna get better and that you are gonna be there for your kids.
This is the first time on my own like this, and it feels really good, because right now I'm about to get my GED and then go off to college. Probably gonna be the first one in my entire family that ever goes to school. I see myself having a good job, being able to support my kids, and just being that mom that I always visioned myself being, just going to work, dropping off my kids, going to work, coming back, picking up my kids, going to the grocery store, taking them to the park, helping them with their homework at home, just, being a good mom, being a good, successful mom.
But I think really my story starts now, because I hope that I'll never have to leave them again. We don't hope for relapse, but we know that if it happens, that we know what to do. I know who to reach out to if I start having those feelings that maybe I want to use. I know how to reach out to before I make those choices. Now I know so many different people that I can call. And so the future, I think, for Lincoln and Kennedy is to not have to lose a parent again. So that's my story from the past, but hopefully, this is where my story begins with my kids.
She's my motivation. She is, to see that she was in a ICU hurting because of my poor choices I made in my life, and to know that today she won't hurt as long as I continue to make the right choices, as far as she won't hurt to have food on the table, or to know that she's loved or taken care of, and that mommy's not going to go anywhere. She's my motivation to do better in life.
going to let that soak in for just a minute. And while we're kind of reflecting on that, it was extremely impactful. I'm going to ask the moms to unmute and share their video if they would like. And the audience, please feel free to ask them questions. They're here to talk to you and answer any questions that you have related to their story, their experiences. We actually already have one question in the queue, which I'll start with, and I'll let each one of them answer. So, which treatment center did these ladies attend? If you want to, if each mom wants to talk in case there was more than one, or if you want to share information on the ones that you had contact with.
I've been to 2 different treatment centers. I went to Safe Key, which is an in-prison treatment facility. It was a 6-month program. And then I also went to NOS in San Antonio.
I attended the NAS program, and I also attended Grace House for 2 months before I was transferred to NAS.
I attended Alpha Home. That was the only treatment I've attended.
Oh, thank you so much. We have a couple more questions coming in. Let me see here. What are some of the best ways to reach moms and families to let them know about resources and services?
The best way to reach other mothers?
Yes. So like, for instance, if you wanted to let them another mom know, if you knew had a mom in your life, or you wanted to, maybe you have a treatment center and you want to let moms know about it.
I think a good place to let mothers know would be like at their OB appointments, or maybe even at the schools. I know the Head Start school that my kids go to, they didn't have any resources. So they told me, "Give me any resources, talk to this lady." And I actually gave her more information than she had. So I think the daycares and preschools would be a good appointment, or a good place to have that information. I never knew about any treatment centers that you could take your kids with you, or really any free treatment centers. So.
Jennifer, Felipa, do you have any other suggestions to add?
When I went to Alpha, I went to Alpha twice. And it's really a good place. I learned mostly all my coping skills there, how to I had to change a lot of my old ways, and I think it's a very I had to even find my resources on my own too. The only thing, the second time, I didn't even know there was a rehabs, and one of the caseworkers told me, "Have you tried a treatment center?" And I'm like, "What's that?" And so when she told me, I started looking up treatment centers, and I saw, Alpha, and I looked it up myself. So I think if other places will really have like information like that for moms that are having problems with addiction, I think it'll help a lot. I had to do the research on my own too.
Jennifer, did you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. Also, too, I think places to where they could reach out to mothers to let them know that there are resources like that, because I've gone to methadone clinics, right? I've been on methadone before, and being on methadone, that already notifies them that you have a drug problem, because you wouldn't be there if you didn't have a opiate problem. So me going to the methadone clinic, they've never once notified me about a rehab. They would just put me on methadone, and then just okay, well, you have to meet with your counselor once a week. And they would UA you, so they would see that you're still using, so they would know you'd never officially got off the drugs. So I think that would be a good place to start. Even hospitals or the doctor's office when we are pregnant, when we go to the doctor's office and they drug test us, they see it in the urine. Okay, well, this mother is using this, and I think even if they start that, and get us the help, it would keep us from ending up in the ICU or the NICU with our children, and even also CPS workers. When I was on CPS, they just came in because I came out dirty for drugs. That same day, the CPS worker just removed my daughter from me, and they never offered treatment. They just said, oh, well, you have to do these classes, this class, this class, this class to get your daughter back and come out clean on UAs. But they never once said, okay, well, look, this is a free treatment center that you can go to, or here's a treatment center that you can go and get help, and you can also have your child. I didn't know about any of that. So I think that would be helpful for a lot of mothers.
Thank you so much. The next question is, what was your family's response / support to you?
I don't have much family support. I didn't at the time whenever I needed it. Of course, now that I've got almost 2 years of sobriety, I have support. But I didn't have any family support. I have a mother that's still struggling, and I don't really have any other local family, so I didn't have much family support.
I don't have much family support either. I think the support that I had most that was really helpful was from my recovery coach. Um, Other than that, my family's not really supportive towards that. I even have my immediate family too still using. So I mean, I really always just relied on, especially the support that I had in Casa Mia, my recovery coach, and the women that were going there from y'all's university. So I mean, that was really a great support.
As far as me, my family is there. When I was in treatment, the family that could go there would visit me. So I have some support from family, but my main support comes from my fellow sisters that I've met at Casa Mia. Felipa is actually a really close friend of mine, and we're actually neighbors. And she's one of my support systems. I also have my sponsor. I have, I join a program. I work the steps. I have recovery coaches, and I just have a lot of friends that I can reach out to.
Julie, do you want to tell the audience why you're in your car and what you're doing today? It's Lisa. We want a second to celebrate you.
Me? Oh, yeah. I just got a scholarship from the Women's Chamber here in Kerrville. That's going to pay for my school. They say that it's up to 12 months, but as I was sitting with the sponsor that sponsored me, she said that I can reapply for it every year, so it will potentially pay for all of my schooling.
And what are you going to school for?
So I'll be pursuing an associate's degree in human services with a specialization in addiction counseling. So my plan is to receive that and then get my license. LCBC may have heard, and then I eventually would like to be a social worker.
Congratulations, Julie.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome. The next question is when you guys, you ladies discussed that possibly mentioning it to a mom during an OB appointment, someone was asking when during your OB appointment would it be a good time to reach out to a mom that might need resources?
like Jim said, they UA at appointments. So whenever they, suspect something, it's like they're very quick to want to document, with CPS and everything like that. But it's like you said, a lot of times treatment is never mentioned at all. Treatment was mentioned when I had a CPS case. They did offer that, but I think at the doctor's office, it's oftentimes they just see that you're dirty and they report it to CPS, and treatment never mentioned. That was the case with me. I know I was taken to an OB appointment from jail, and I had just, I found out I was pregnant in jail with my first son, and of course I was dirty at that first OB appointment. So they opened up a CPS case. It opened the day after my son was born, and the OB office never mentioned any type of resources for treatment.
Jennifer, Felipa, you want to chime in?
Yeah, when my son was taken away from me, from the hospital to when he was born, I was reported a CPS really quick, but I never, not from the hospital, and I never received any information like whatsoever of going into treatment. If they would have at least said something about, treatment centers or places where I can go and so I can get my son, he can be there with me, I think I would have made better choices, that at that time. But since, I really, I left out of the hospital really hurt. So when I got out of the hospital, I went back to using, and it took me longer to get my son. And, I lost a lot of time without him. So it really hurt me. I just thank God for having him, with me right now, and just being able to be there for him as a mom, and making good choices for them.
The next question is what would you say to a mom that is in a residence like Casa Mia, but might be struggling to work the program?
I truly believe that if someone isn't ready, then no amount of treatment, no matter what the treatment center is, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be it's not going to work. So the advice, or what I would say to somebody that was there, that really wasn't gaining all the benefits, is just to really ask them, what do they want out of life? I think that the majority of mothers, or the majority of women that have children, they want to be with their child. So I would ask them that. I would ask them what do they really want in life? Where do they see themselves? That'd be a good place to start.
For me, miss, to other mothers that are, because I've been in there. I was in Casa Mia. I stayed in Casa Mia a little over a year, and I'm very grateful. Right, you're allowed to stay there 6 months, but Casa Mia allowed me and my daughter to stay there. We stayed there for approximately 13 months, and so I saw a lot of women that were new to the program that would go in, and I saw a lot of women leave. But the women that did go in and, they were taking it hard, I would just tell them, take it one day at a time, get through today. That's all we can work on is today. Work on yourself today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about, what you have to do later. Like, work on today. and then today turns into tomorrow, and it goes from there. And the more time that we have clean and we're sober and we work on ourselves, the more things just fall into place. We're reunited with our children, we get healthier, we accomplish goals, and we're at where we're at today because we took it one day at a time.
Another question is how did you hear about Casa Mia?
For me, I heard about Casa Mia when I was at NAS. Um, they offer you that opportunity that when you complete your rehab treatment, that you could be transferred over to Casa Mia. So I went ahead and did that. The first time when I got out the last time, I didn't get transferred. I went home for like a month, and I noticed everything that I learned at NAS, I noticed it wasn't a good idea. So I reached out to Casa Mia and I got transferred to their program.
Same thing for me. My counselor at NOS was the one that had told me about Casa Mia. And I just want to mention too, this isn't the answer to the question, I'll say it really fast. I think it's awesome because all of the girls that I know from Casa Mia that have been there, and I think most of them, they're still sober. And I think that's the difference between other treatment programs or other places, because most of the other treatment places that I went to, most of the girls aren't still sober. So I think that's a huge testament as to how successful it is for us to have our kids with us while we're receiving treatment, because all the people I know that were living at Casa Mia are still sober.
Um, I I was told about it when I was almost to be released from Alpha, um, and it was one of the parenting teachers, Miss Veronica, the one that worked at the parenting inside where the Alpha was at. So when she told me about it, would you like to, it's a home where you can stay with your kids and you can, be reunited with them. And I started crying. I said, yes. I mean, it helps me get my son back and being able to stay clean and away from, my family and away from, people, places and things. That's awesome. And sooner or later, 2 days later, they called for me and I was accepted to go over there, and I mean that was the best decision I've ever made. Casa Mia has just been I had my times in there where it was me, that I was learning things and learning to cope with my feelings and just learning new skills. Um, so, but it was a very I was very happy when they told me about that place.
The next question is, as a care manager, when speaking with moms who deny their addiction, how would you recommend starting that conversation without making mom feel like they are being judged when that really isn't the intention?
I think for that, it's going to be the difference of who it is that starts that conversation. Um, because if it's someone that hasn't been there, then that's going to immediately make them feel judged. So I think it's important who it is that starts that conversation. Whether it's a peer support person, or a recovery coach. I know that was big. The first person, usually the first one you have in contact with is like someone in administration that maybe necessarily hasn't been there. So I think it would be good for it to be maybe the recovery coach or a peer support, because they've been there. So definitely somebody that has a lived experience starts that conversation.
I think that too, Miss. I think I've had, people who I knew that had not been in my shoes and would ask me, questions, and it does make you feel uncomfortable or make you feel. And when I've been, asked questions from somebody that I know has been in my shoes, it's to me, it's like they're giving me the advice, because they know they've been there.
For me, I would have to say it's it's really on the approach, right? Because when I would be at a doctor's appointment and they would ask me right away, okay, well, do you do drugs? I would always be afraid to say yes, you know what I mean? And I would lie and say no. And even whenever I would get the UA and they would see that it was dirty, I would still, lie because I was afraid that I was gonna get in trouble. I always thought, you know what I mean? If I admitted the truth, I was going to get in trouble, or if I admitted the truth, my kid was going to get taken away from me. So I would lie. So I really think it's about the approach, assuring the mother that you're there to help, that you're not there to try to take away the kid. You're not there to get them in any trouble, that you're there to help. So I think that would make a difference.
Thank you all. We also have another question. How are your children doing today?
So my kids are great. First, I want to say yesterday I stopped at the gas station after picking up my kids from my grandparents' house because, of course, school's out and they don't start summer school till Monday. And I stopped at the gas pump and then I was getting my kids out of the car to go in the gas station. And there was a guy parked next to me. And as I walked past with my kids, he stopped me. And he was a young guy, like maybe 30 or something. And he was like, I just want to tell you that you're a really good mom. And that made me feel really good because I don't know why he said that. I think it was because of the patience that I was having getting them out of the car, and then I was holding their hands because there was cars around, and my son was, just like kids do. So that helped me. But my kids are great. I got woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning last night with Kennedy projectile vomiting in the bed. So that was awesome. And then I left their grandparents' house this morning with him screaming, I want my mommy. So that was awesome. But they're great. They're, what's happened, the transformation that they've had over the last year, the last 2 years, really. I've been gone from Casa Mia for a year this month and in my own place. And they still talk about Casa Mia. They want to go back because they miss the stairs and they call it the big house. But my kids are doing great. They both were in Head Start this year, and they both did really, really good in school. This is their first time going to school or going to daycare, and they're doing awesome. And I'm very, very grateful for everyone at Casa Mia and every person with Center for Healthcare Services and UT Health and Science that have supported us and been there for us.
My kids are doing really good. My daughter, she's growing up so fast. She just frightens me when every morning she's just when she wakes up, she's on the crib looking at me and at first she would tell me Dada a couple of months back. She learned how to say Dada first, but now she tells me Mama in the mornings, and she's all happy when she wakes up. And my son, he's always no matter what he's been going through, I've had the patience and just being able to love to being a mom, just to see him, and when he tells me, you're a good mom, and he hugs me and kisses me, it's just the best feeling ever. He kisses me every day and hugs me. So even when I drop him off, so that just gives me the motivation to keep doing what I'm doing, and just uh, I'm just happy with my kids right now. My daughter's gonna be one next in 2 weeks, so I'm excited, but they're doing really good.
And my daughter, she is doing really well. She's at daycare right now, and she is just happy. She always has a smile on her face, right? And even if she's like the one that she's like, it's okay, mom, everything's gonna be okay. And she's ready to start school in August. So she's gonna start school. She's gonna be 4. So I'll start college in August as well. So she's like, mommy, we're both gonna be in big girl school. So it's kind of funny, right? But she is just she's a joy, right? And it kind of now she has her routine where we get home and she's like, mommy, it's dinner time, and then I got to take my bath, and then we get to watch a cartoon, and then 8:30 comes and she's going through the whole house already, turning off the TV, and she's like, mom, it's bedtime, turning off the lights, and I'm like, whoa, 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 I still got no. She's like, nope, it's time for sleep. But she's doing really well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much. Another question, what are some of the best types of help areas needed after you finish the program for you to get started rebuilding your life with your children?
Oh, I would have to say therapy, maybe to work on mental health, because a lot of our addiction, we've been through a lot of traumatic events. So I believe I know I suffer from a form of PTSD from abuse growing up, and the abuse I endured in drugs. So I think therapy would help greatly.
Can you say the question again?
Yes. What would be some good resources once you get out of Casa Mia that would help you in rebuilding your life with your children at home?
I think something that isn't really there is like just like the financial part, because it's really hard. Of course, like with these stimulus and stuff like that, and living at Casa Mia, I was able to save some money and working to be able to move out. But I don't know, for some girls that might not be able to do that. So I think something like with deposits and stuff like that would be a good resource. Like Jen said, continuing therapy and counseling, which we do receive if we're going to the methadone clinic or the mommy's program. But I think the financial part, maybe like kitchen stuff. I didn't have a lot of kitchen stuff whenever I got to my new house. Bathroom stuff. Of course, whenever you get your own house, that's kind of like the first thing you want to do. And to be able to have our kids sit down to dinner and take a bath and stuff, stuff like that, stuff for our bathroom, stuff for our kitchen. I think that would be a huge help. Sheets, stuff like that.
I think counseling and therapy, that has helped me still to right now. I still get counseling, and it helps. It helps really. It helps a lot. The resources, I had to, when I got out, I did my own research, and I came here to the program where I'm at right now, and I'm very grateful that I stopped here, and I just knocked the door, and they immediately brought me in, and they did my application that day, the interview. So I just felt like I was blessed that day when I walked here. But having a little bit more resources and where to go next after going out from there, I think that would help.
Thank you. Next question is, would it be helpful if healthcare providers had someone connecting you to treatment resources while you were there at the appointment versus sending you home with resources?
I would have to say, I think it would be better if they did it while they had us there, because usually, what happens is they give you this thing and they say, okay, we'll call this place or call that place. And you're like, okay, I'll call them. And then we get home and we go back to what we normally start doing is using drugs. So that gets pushed to the back burner. And I think to put hold a mom there, not against her will, of course not, but to give her that resource right away, for them to help her take that step, because normally we don't take that step on our own. A lot of times we don't do it willingly.
Yeah, I think while we're there, which that happened to me whenever I was at originally went to Center for Healthcare detox. She, while I was right there, she called because when we just like get handed the resources, we may not get an answer. We may have to leave a message, and usually they may have a contact that we don't have, or they know the name of this person, and so they may have more success than we would. So definitely try to do what they can while we're still there in the office or wherever we're at.
When I was in detox before, I went to Alpha this second time. The person that was there at the detox asked me, "Do you want to give you the information so you could call them and see if they?" I said, "Well, I knew too, that if I walked out, it was gonna take me some time to reach out or just I'll probably go back." And I really got scared, and I told her, I was crying. I said, "Can you do it for me? Try to see you call me, because sometimes when y'all call, maybe they can't even get me in there faster." So they called in for me, and within 2-3 hours they picked me up from Alpha. So I think
Thank you. There's a couple questions about Casa Mia. I'm going to try to wrap them into one. One of the questions is what other services are provided? And is there a program provided at Casa Mia that helps you strengthen the bond with your child?
I don't know about one that like a bond strengthening. I didn't have my kids with me though, 24/7 at Casa Mia. I was still going through a custody battle, so I often just had them on the weekends. And then I know they did do some things where the kids were outside making little clay things. It was for a holiday, I believe, where they were able to put their handprints. So that was awesome, and I know that was provided by UT Health. We also had a nutritionist that would come. She came to NOS as well as Casa Mia, so most of the girls already knew her. She showed us how to make like healthy snacks or healthy meals for kids, so that was very helpful. We also had a parenting class that was by a Christian ministry, a woman that came for a parenting class, and she had all different things, and she also would take our name and number and drop off clothes and wipes, and she was awesome. So there's a lot of different things offered there.
I would agree with Julie. They do offer parenting classes. UT Health would go over Miss Christiani. It was usually once a week, or they would try to keep us busy with activities. They would do baby yoga. They would have cooking classes for mothers and the kids. They would have the planting activities for mothers and kids. They would have arts and crafts for mothers and kids. So they did incorporate a lot of activities that were mothers and kids.
yeah, they really did have a lot of activities for the moms and the kids to do together. Um, and then when they would go and read stories to the kids, give out books, just have us do things with our kids, just like so we can bond, especially when they were just there for a day or two. Like my son, when I was first getting him, he was just there for an hour, 2 hours the first days, and then for the weekend. So it was something good that they would do with moms and the kids there.
Thank you, ladies, for answering those questions. I just wanted to put it out there. If you have any final thoughts to leave the audience with, that would be wonderful. And we got about 4 minutes.
I'll go really, really fast. Like I said before, I said it so many times, I think Casa Mia, it really, really made the difference. I had been there like a day of treatment and then safety. None of that worked for me. It made the difference because it took me out of like living with family who maybe was still using or drinking, or it took me out of the environment that I was in, but didn't make me have to really separate from my kids. So it made the difference for me. And all of the people that I met were just so, so helpful. They really went above and beyond. Um, it is awesome. Like I said, it's, you know, the proof is really in the women that have been there. All the women that I know that have went through Casa Mia are still sober and, you know, doing well in their life. So it's awesome.
To me, it was a very awesome place for me to go, especially to get my son back. He just it took me a while, but little by little, when I got him back, I was very grateful. And I had my daughter there too. I went there when I was like 4 months, and I had my daughter there too. So it was a great place for me to just learn a lot about myself too. So, but that place just it's an awesome place. I mean, I didn't have to go back to my family, back to places where I didn't want to, so it kept me away from, things that I didn't want to go back out to. It was my first time not going out there just on my own. So being there, it really helped me. It gave me a lot of structure.
Miss, what was the question again?
Just to share your final thoughts for the audience in regards to the presentation and your experience.
My final thoughts is just to, I guess, working in the field, just be more understanding towards mothers that, have children that, they're in addiction with, and we go to these places, or that reach out for help. A lot of times we reach out for help and we usually get okay, well, we'll let you know something, or we'll get back to you. And usually when we're reaching out for help, sometimes we're usually at the end of our rope. So just be understanding to us mothers. See us that we're human and we make mistakes. And I just want to thank Casa Mia. It's because of Casa Mia, being a big part of my recovery, my journey, the women that I've met there, the friendships that I've, the bonds, the connections. And I appreciate all the time and effort and the care and love that they put. It's not just a job to the women working there at Casa Mia and Casa Mia in general. It's love that comes from them. Even to this day, I still get calls or text messages just to say, hey, Jen, how are you doing? We're here for you if you need us. So that's good to know that support's always there if we ever need it. So just thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Cleveland, you have any final thoughts?
I do. I'm trying to turn my camera back on. Ladies, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your stories. As I said, you're truly an inspiration to all of us. And I want to thank all of our attendees. We're really excited about the month of June. We have some great speakers. I encourage you all to check some of them out. If you can't participate live, they will be available for 2 years, right, Sharice? And you can take them for continuing credit for the next 2 years. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And yes, they'll be online starting in July, the recorded versions.
Thank you, Bess.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
moms. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.